Um, because we are live streaming and on Zoom, I would like to do a roll call attendance. This is Teresa Hale, board chair, and I am here. Other board members, Leslie Kessler, please say aye that you're here.
Aye.
Jamie Miner.
Aye.
David Edwards.
Aye.
Megan Wentz.
Aye.
Dr. Paul Garcia.
Aye.
And joining us is also our board attorney, David Gadd,
Hello.
our board executive director, Kathy Arney, and our IT support, David Knoll. Thank you all for participating in today's specially called board meeting. I also see another board member has just joined us. Stephanie, would you say aye, acknowledging that you're in the meeting? Stephanie, can you hear me? I can see Stephanie, but she can't hear us.
It's still connecting.
Okay. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to the meeting.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, connection issues.
All good.
Understand. Thank you for being able to join us for this special meeting.
Of course.
We do have a full quorum, and I'd like to just welcome everybody. And as we start every public meeting of our board, I am required to read the conflict of interest statement. I apologize, it's very breezy down here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so conflict of interest is at the beginning of each meeting, the chair shall remind the members of their duty to avoid conflicts and appearances of conflict and to inquire as to whether there is any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to the matters coming before our board today. Individual members must make a diligent effort before taking action, including participation in discussion, to determine whether a conflict or appearance of conflict exists. Individual members have an affirmative duty to inquire of their business associates, families, and close friends of any issues that may come before the board. If a member has a question regarding his or her participation, that member should ask direction from the chair, or in the event of the chair's unavailability, the vice chair. As board members, you've heard me read this conflict of interest statement. Does anyone need to declare a conflict of interest at this time? Seeing no hands go up or verbal responses, I will assume that we all have read the conflict of interest and understand that we are not in any conflict. At this time, I'll turn it over to Kathy Arney.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you everyone for coming to this short notice, specially called meeting. We have the business at hand that we were primarily going to discuss is your approval of an MOU with the North Carolina Professionals Health Program. But there were two little things that snuck in here, so we're going to do those first. And one of those is to ask you to approve an expenditure for a PT consultant who we need to perform some research regarding the Public Protection Task Force imaging referral project. And the reason that we need a separate individual is that they need to be providing information and obtaining feedback from North Carolina Medical Society, the radiologists, and several other societies or associations related to the medical board, the chiropractic board, and any other relevant boards, and then potentially some insurers in North Carolina. The reason for that is we met with the North Carolina Board of Medicine and the North Carolina Chiropractic Board on behalf of the Public Protection Task Force. And David Edwards, your member, was an absolute rock star at the Chiropractic Board meeting. And then at the medical board meeting, they were very helpful in, asking a lot of really good questions and making or giving us some things to think about regarding how we want to think about this and information that we need to gather before we think about taking this any further. So as a result, the Public Protection Task Force has considered the fact that in order to take it to the next step, we need buy-in from other entities that have a potential stake in this and who might consider opposing it at the Rules Review Commission, because it's better to wait and do this when everybody understands what's going to happen. We're all on the same page and everybody is supportive of this, effort to help patients, instead of there being questions hanging out there and there's opposition, and then we have to pull all the rules anyway. There's no sense in starting that process until we're really ready. It is more appropriate, since board staff and board members do not lobby anybody, it's more appropriate for maybe an external third party who has some knowledge about the topic to go and do this on our behalf. So that we have someone in mind who fits that bill. And for several reasons, in order to move the process forward, we need to go ahead and get this research done. And it doesn't need to wait until the July 1st fiscal year budget. So I'm proposing that we spend between $6,000 and $7,000 on this consultant to obtain this information for the Public Protection Task Force. And I would like your approval by a motion to that, in that vein.
Move we accept the EDs. Oops.
Okay, we got David Edwards and Leslie Kessler.
So the motion's been made and seconded that we accept the ED's recommendation to hire this special consultant. Now I'm going to open it up for questions and discussion. So Kathy, how many hours of consultative time are you projecting, and who have you already vetted to be a consultant?
I am making a guess of about 10 hours a week for 8 weeks. And this includes the preparatory developing of talking points, having those approved, assuring that they are on the same page with the board in terms of information that we would like presented, questions and feedback, types of things that we would like to get from the people that we're talking to. It includes all the travel time, all the time to meet with these individuals, whatever expenses are incurred to do that, and then meeting with the Public Protection Task Force, meeting with the board if needed, and then filing a written report to us. I'm guessing that seems about right to me in talking to her. And the person who we have spoken with is Flo Moses. She is agreeable to do this job. And for those of you that know her, she's got a lot of longevity in this profession. She's used to be a clinic owner and outpatient private practice in Raleigh. Knows a lot of the players in this. She's been an advocate for PT and for the athletic trainers for years, and knows how to talk the talk. So I don't think we could be luckier that we have this kind of a resource. That's just my opinion. If anybody else has any suggestions, I can look into those.
Support Kathy's choice. I've known Flo for many years, and you couldn't ask for a better person to do it.
I definitely endorse that as well. I've known Flo for 40 years, and she was a real advocate in the General Assembly back in the 80s. So she knows how to ask questions, dig in for answers. She'll be very bright and intelligent in her responses to any kind of stakeholder out there with questions. Is there anyone who has any opposition to this motion that needs to clarify a question? Hearing none, are you ready for the vote? We're going to do a roll call vote again because we are live streamed and on Zoom. So all those in favor of this motion, let it be known by saying aye when I call your name. I'll start with me, Teresa Hale. Aye. Jamie? Myra?
Aye.
Leslie Kessler?
Aye.
Megan Wentz?
Aye.
David Edwards?
Aye.
Dr. Paul Garcia,
Aye.
Stephanie Bernard.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Teresa, it sounds like the birds may want to add some discussion.
I think they could carry me off out here with the wind. So
Are we
Kathy,
ready?
how soon can you engage Flo to start this process? Because it sounds like it's going to take 6 or 8 weeks.
You know, as soon as she is available. I know that next week she's out of town, so probably when she gets back.
Great.
Now that this has been approved, we can start the ball rolling.
That's great. Thank you.
And we conveniently, towards the end of May, we have a public protection task force meeting, so she can also meet with the task force and tell them what she's developed, you know, initially, and get that added to pretty quickly. Are we ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay, great. The next one, the North Carolina has apparently reorganized some of the divisions that they have. And in the board rules, we have listed, let me get to it, a certain set of departments, Department of Public Instruction, Division of Public Health, and Health Area Education Centers as pre-approved providers. The CDSAs formerly fell under Division of Public Health in the organizational chart. They're being reorganized into a different division and still want to remain approved providers. So our attorney, David Gadd, suggested that the board, make a request that they submit a letter to us agreeing that they will comply with all of the requirements of an approved provider with the activities that they put on, and then they will be given that status as approved providers. But he thought because of the way the rule was written that we ought to get the board to approve that. David, if you need to say something additional to that, please.
Just briefly, I mean, it's essentially semantics, because the rule provides for certain governmental entities to be already pre-approved. And since they just moved from one agency to another, it's still the same thing. It's just not classified in the agency that's referred to in our rule. So I thought that if we could just, since it's no longer in compliance with the rule, we just have them certify that they meet all the standards in our rule, and then we can have them back on the approved list. So if they send us a letter that certifies all those things, you can go ahead as the board and approve it today, excuse me, contingent on receiving that letter. And that just puts us back where we were before they got moved into the different agency.
So moved.
Second.
David. Leslie, are you seconding? Thank you. Teresa, you're on mute.
I was trying to eliminate some of the bird noise out here. The motion's been made by David, seconded by Leslie, that we accept the ED's recommendation along with our legal counsel to move the CDSA into an approved provider list for continuing competency, to make it paralleled with their reassessment or reassignment as a state agency. Is there any further?
Contingent upon their submission of a letter saying
They
that
must submit a letter requesting it. Yes, thank you. Is there any discussion, question, conflict, or any question you have for our attorney or for Kathy? Seeing none, hearing none, this is a motion that needs a vote. So this will be another roll call vote. Aye, nay, or abstaining. Teresa Hale, aye. David Edwards,
Aye.
Megan Wentz,
Aye.
Leslie Kessler,
Aye.
Jamie Minor,
Aye.
Dr. Paul Garcia,
Aye.
and Stephanie Bernard.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Kathy?
Thank you. The final item that we have on our agenda today, after the efforts of many, which includes Josh Poll. I can never pronounce his name correctly, but the attorney for the North Carolina Professionals Health Program, David Gadd, their executive director, Joe Jordan, and myself, collaborating on looking at their memorandum of understanding between the North Carolina PHP and us for an agreement that they will take referrals from us for individual licensees who have substance use or suspected substance use disorders, and they will evaluate them, create a plan of care, do all the monitoring, and make recommendations to us as needed. And this is the program that is now going to be in place of the North Carolina Board of Nursing, which we were unable to renew our MOU with because they're no longer able to accommodate doing that additional work. We purposefully asked that it be just for those that we are referring to them, that are the ones that we will provide the $7,500 stipend for per person. There's still a portion of the monitoring fees and the drug testing fees that the individual will have to pay. But the board contributes that set fee for each person. The reason that I provided you with the information about the historical referrals to the North Carolina Board of Nursing, which should have been in one of the emailed attachments, and if you don't have it, I'm glad to go over it. On average, it was 0 to 1 per year. The MOU with the Board of Nursing began in 2007 and ended December 31st, 2021. So it's on average about 0 to 1 individual. But more recently, we've had 5 between 2017 and 2021 who refused participation. I can also think of some individuals who had complaints filed against them who, it's possible that they could have ended up there. And so, while maybe you can't really prove it with statistical significance at this point, it feels like the incidence is increasing and the need for this. We also have on our website that if you have a substance use disorder or mental health disorder, that you have some resources that you can access. And for those individuals who might like to refer themselves, they can participate in that program too. They just have to pay for the services that they receive. This group works with North Carolina Medical Board, North Carolina Board of Pharmacy, and veterinarians in North Carolina. They are pretty long established and working with other health professions. And so, I think we're excited that we found them, and they're looking forward to working with us. So what we need is to approve this memorandum of understanding in order to be able to execute it and get started. And right now we have somebody we would like to be able to refer almost immediately. So I'll be glad to answer questions or David add, or if David wanted to add anything else before we do that.
Only thing I'd like to say is the one reason why this is more urgent than other matters that are heard on our regularly scheduled meeting is as complaints come to the investigative committee, if the complaint has an element of the allegation regarding substance abuse or mental health issues, the licensee is given the opportunity to go this route and go through this program. So if we don't have one, we can't offer that to them. So that's one reason why we wanted to bring this before you today. And you've seen the memorandum. It's pretty simple. It does allow either party to get out of the agreement with 6 months notice, and everything else, it is pretty boilerplate and looks fine to me. We do have a pretty high level of confidence in these folks based on what other people have told us and just the information we've gathered from them. So we think there's going to be a high level of service provided. And as Kathy said before, we we're ready to send some, offer this to someone almost immediately. And the final thing I'd like to say is if and when a motion to approve this does come about, if you will also authorize Kathy as executive director to sign it and then she can send it directly to PHP. So we're not having to send it around to any board members.
And just to be clear, the $7,500 per participant program fee, we would be paying as a board, but any additional fees that are encountered, including the investigative committee fees, would be the responsibility of the licensee.
The investigative committee fees would not unless they are also going through the disciplinary process. Cost of investigations can be done with a consent order or a warning, but we wouldn't do that with someone who's not in a non-disciplinary process.
So if they successfully completed it, there wouldn't be a fee. If they did not successfully complete it and came back to the investigative committee, there would be a fee.
Okay, good.
If I'm reading it correctly, even if they just go for the first visit, it's still $7,500.
Correct.
Do we, from a financial point of view, do we feel like there's a potential risk of a sudden onslaught of people wanting this? Or do we feel like we need some type of stopgap? Or, looking historically at the numbers, it's very minimal.
Yeah.
But do we need at some point some type of safety net as an internal policy?
As you know, you have a very healthy reserve, and the way that you've achieved that is through the licensure and application fees that we receive from our licensees and applicants. And we have over what we need at this point. Those fees are to be used to the benefit of the public by our board, and licensees are public members that can benefit from what the board is able to provide. I have asked Joyce Tynes to budget in for up to 4 participants in this program for this year. I mean, we're making a guess, and it fits into the budget this year, which you'll see pretty soon at the June meeting, and we feel like we're able to manage that.
Yeah, I would hope we would, because I mean, our goal, right, is really to make sure that we don't want to lose a licensee.
Exactly.
Okay. And especially if it's due to substance use or mental health. It's one thing if they're corrupt, but if you have one who's just struggling, it doesn't, everyone on the call, I mean, the physical therapists and PTAs and our training, it's not something that's dime a dozen, so if we got someone that did the training, they've proved themselves, I would hope. And if we did go above 4, I mean, the historic data doesn't demonstrate that at this time. We can always, regroup at our meeting, say, do we need to, and that's something you can even put in our website. Hey, we're seeing more folks that are struggling with this, or have they, and instead of it comes to the board's attention, say, have you really talked to your primary care provider and let them know? Because I think a lot of folks struggle to say something to their primary care provider because they're afraid, oh, am I going to get a reported to the board? But again, some people who struggle with substance use disorder, sometimes they're highly functioning. And so we want them to continue functioning, but we also want to make sure that they're aware and they're seeking help as opposed to going through this route. So we should be able to absorb 4 slots, at least bare minimum.
And one other check on this is that it has to go through the investigative committee. So licensees can't just show up and say, I want to enroll in this and we pay the $7,500. It has to come through as a complaint. Then we have a meeting, we go through all the facts. So there are some steps that we go through before it even gets to this point that will be sort of a control.
Yeah, I would be surprised if a PT would come to the board to seek help. Because remember when we wrote that memo a couple of years ago, Kat, I wanted to put on the website that you shouldn't come. It's almost like trying to get your leg fixed after you broke it a couple of years ago. You want to try to intervene on that aspect first. In fact, that's one of the main reasons a lot of people, professionals, don't seek help, because they think, they don't want the board involved at all, because they think there's going to be a ramification. And a lot of times it's not. It's just, a lot of times their families are calling the office and trying to seek help. And a lot of times I will make sure that they're going the right route and getting treatment for it. But I understand what you're saying, Dave, but I would be stunned if we got an onslaught, especially if they can go to their own provider and have that confidentiality.
So we have that link still on the homepage, and we can take a look at that again and maybe enhance it. First of all, because it's dated now, because it talks about the North Carolina Board of Nursing. But beyond that, to your point about, seek help from, your primary care. But then if Paul, if you want to help us with maybe some additional ways we might word that, we can do it like we did before. I think we're sending it
No
around.
problem. No problem. Yeah, just let me know what you need, because like I said, our goal, we don't want folks, we want all of our licensees to be healthy, practicing, functioning, and not have to utilize this service. This really should be something that's in case of fire, break glass. It's just something that's very rare, but we want it available for them. But really kind of decrease that stigma. It's still there, even amongst healthcare providers. So we really got to make a better effort and try to help our professionals out there that do struggle with it. Because I will tell you, I guarantee there's no one on this call. I'd be shocked if I asked the hands, how many on this call know someone who struggled with substance abuse? I know. I'm telling you. If you're and it's either that or they're not telling you, right? So, it's there. So I just want to try to destigmatize it further, because when people don't, when they feel stigmatized, they're not going to reach out. They're already being judged by their family. So we just got to try to put more inclusive language, not to minimize. It's a serious issue, but say, listen, it's all right to reach out for help. Doesn't mean, you haven't failed. You just need some assistance. That's all.
And just to be clear, David Gadd, on the language of this contract or MOU with them, we are obligated to pay the $7,500, but it has to come through the investigative committee as a complaint, and then we control who's referred to this program. Is that correct?
That's correct. The referrals, and it's in here. I'd have to find what paragraph it is, but the referrals must come from the board. If somebody else wants to submit themselves, then we're not obligated to pay for any of that.
But Kathy or David, I'm wondering though, because it is somewhat of a service and because we're trying to prevent it from becoming a board problem, wouldn't or could we offer it to those who are already in trouble before they're reported?
Well, I think it is available to them, but they have to go and seek it from them directly, and they would pay for it. I think what we were talking about financially is it was going to be a very big number if we offer it automatically to everyone. For example, the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy offers this to applicants, licensees. And so imagine the size of that population. And right now, already this is 7 times the amount it costs us to participate with the Board of Nursing. So I think we need to kind of see what we're up against first to be, or what we can afford to offer. But I think we're already subsidizing this, and I think we're doing a good job with what we're offering here.
And the only reason I really bring it up is from a treasurer's point of view, but also from a licensee's point of view that doesn't see all this, so that we've had this discussion and we would be able to answer them appropriately if the question were to come up at some point.
Absolutely.
Okay, do I entertain a motion at this time?
I make a motion for us to accept the new contract and give Kathy or Edie the authority to sign it. I said that right.
Second.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, the motion was made by Dr. Garcia. Was that Leslie seconding it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that we accept the contract as written for, or MOU, for the new provider, and that we give Kathy the authority to sign this document. Is there any further question or discussion about this? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Aye, nay, or abstain. Teresa Hale, aye, agree. David Edwards,
Aye.
Megan Wentz,
Aye.
Leslie Kessler,
Aye.
Jamie Minor,
Aye.
Dr. Paul Garcia, you're on
Aye.
mute. Okay, Stephanie Bernard.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous vote, so the motion passes. Kathy, thank you.
Welcome.
And David Gadd, thank you for the review. I know that you spent time on having to really pour through this.
You're welcome.
So is there any other new business before we close?
I'd like to take a moment just to remind everyone that last week I sent you all the ED performance evaluation tool. And if you have not yet completed that and sent it to me, please do so at your earliest convenience. Thank you. Okay, if there's no further business coming before the board at the special meeting, I think it would be appropriate to adjourn. So, adjourned. Have a good rest of your week, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.